would like to go now to our third topic. And our third topic is about the electronic phytosanitary certificate. Since 2011, the Commission on Phytosanitary Measures has already encouraged advancement of electronic certification, and it was during the CPM9 that it was approved an appendix to the International Standard number 12, which is for phytosanitary certificates, that describes the format and contents of electronic phytosanitary certificate. A proposal for the long term of financial sustainability of ePhyto was presented now during CPM15. And the document was drafted to outline an acceptable plan to determine how best to ensure its sustained resource. CPM15 on its second day decided that the best way forward was to have a small working group with different representatives from the different FAO regions and of course representatives of the industry. And with this, I would like to welcome to the floor together with me, Alejandra Castillo, which is the Regional Director for South Asia, US Grains Council, and myself. We are both the co-chairs of the ePhyto Industry Advisory Group, and we will present to you all why ePhyto is important for the seed industry and for the private sector as a whole, and about the work that the Industry Advisory Group has been done and will carry on doing on outreach activities, which include case studies and workshops within PPO. I will start by sharing the slides. So why it is important? So the whole idea of the ePhyto is designed to significantly improve border efficiency and global coverage, making the movement of goods across borders safer, faster, and cheaper. I can tell you right now that nearly 91 different economies are now registered for ePhyto, with 41 fully active at the moment. The whole idea of ePhyto is to implement an accessible way for all governments to be able to exchange phytosanitary certificates electronically via Global Hub. We have 40 of the current economies which are signed for ePhyto. They are already exchanging phytosanitary certificates electronically. This is really good, but we would like to see more. As you can see from this list of countries here, we have different countries which are in different stages. We have Brazil, Argentina, Morocco, New Zealand, which are fully able to send and receive ePhytos electronically. And we have some that are still only capable one way. We have Ecuador, Kenya, but there is certain economies, for example, Morocco, which is aiming to be fully digitalized for all imports and exports operations by this year. It is important to highlight that nearly 500,000 ePhytos were exchanged in 2020. During the pandemic, it has been highlighted how important it is digitalization on all the activities that we do, especially because that will alleviate and make sure that there will be a movement of goods internationally without having to be able to stop due to very restricted health measures. With that, I would like to hand it over the floor to my colleague, Alejandra Castillo. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Rose, and welcome everyone. Thank you for the invitation to have this section cover the ePhyto and the work that we've been doing. As Rose said, my name is Alejandra Castillo. I'm the Regional Director for South Asia for the Grains Council, but I'm speaking to you as co-chair of the ePhyto Solution Program on behalf of the International Grain Trade Coalition, or IGTC, representing the grain industry. So the ePhyto solution crafted an individualized group to represent the industry, and we're known as the Industry Advisory Group, or the IAG. It was established to provide practical guidance and advice to the IPPC Secretariat on the development and deployment and implementation of the ePhyto solution on the actual physical trade. So part of our role is to advise the Secretariat of the IPPC on the feasibility of the project, i.e. the sustainability and funding, as well as its ability to facilitate efficient, sustainable trade flows amongst different commodity groups. The IAG membership has several members from several industries, and I won't read them all out to you. You can see them on the screen, but you can see that we have fairly good representation across different commodities, across different across the globe, I should say. We are working to provide expertise regarding the commercial implications on how does the ePhyto actually works from a trade flow to trade flow, country to country, or economy to economy, flow to flow way, so that we can not only map out the supply chain, but also understand the areas where the ePhyto needs to improve or needs to collaborate further amongst different economies. Next slide, please. So this is just a map. As Rose mentioned, currently there are about 91 different economies that are hooked up to the ePhyto hub, which is the main server that allows countries that have their own exporting systems to join directly to the hub. But 29 different economies are signed up to the GEN system, which allows them to hook up to a sub-server that then connects to the hub for those economies that do not have single windows or their own systems of exchanging. So ultimately, what the IAG wants to do is to make sure that all of the economies are highlighted green. They're fully on board and they're fully connected and exchanging ePhytos. Next slide, please. As Rose mentioned, in the ongoing CPM15 discussions, several funding options were presented by the IPPC to the CPM. There are 7 in total that we're presenting. The IAG is supportive of the next ones. The IAG is supportive of a fixed charge per phytosanitary certificate payable to the IPPC Secretariat by the contracting party, i.e. different economies, a monthly fee or an annual fee that takes into consideration several factors affecting each economy, volume, usage, etc., or a multi-year voluntary contribution agreement from national governments, donor organizations, and industry organizations, not individual firms. Perhaps one of the key features of the ePhyto and the Phytos today is its impartiality, and we at the IAG want to continue to see that happening. But perhaps most importantly, as Rose mentioned, the IAG is supportive of a small working group that is comprised of government and industry partners like the IAG and others to be established and reporting to the ePhyto steering group, ultimately to ensure that industry continues to be at the table, contributing information, contributing expertise, and also learning what the standard settings that are in the pipeline will be and how they will be used and affect or influence the way that industry is able to implement and utilize these standards. Next slide, please. And one of the ways in which the IAG has been instrumental in showing how the ePhyto actually has applicable usage on the day-to-day trading operations globally is we started to host case studies, wanting to not only see how the ePhyto would be implemented, but also trying to map out its functionalities across different parts of the supply chain, measuring both import and export processes, operations personnel that touch the ePhyto at any particular point in the supply chain. So to date, since 2018, when we started the case studies, we have conducted 27 case studies, primarily in the grain sector, though we learned today that there have been several case studies done in the seeds industry as well, particularly with Mexico. And early observations from the case studies gave us some positive feedback on savings on time and different costs, though we're still mapping up what those cost savings were. But ultimately, their biggest showcase so far has been we have been able to map out greater efficiency and ease of export and import processes along the supply chain. We have noticed also great collaboration between several industry trade associations, primarily in Argentina, CIARASEC, on onboarding neighboring economies such as Peru, and Colombia. These two countries are not actively signed up on the hub or exchanging. However, Argentina has been doing and conducting some onboarding best practices, as Argentina and Chile are now fully exchanging digital phytosanitary certificates. So it is absolutely critical to ensure participation continues across multiple commodities and economies. One of the main objectives of these case studies, as I said, is to collect hard data that will drive decisions as the ePhyto solution project enters its final phases, and will continue to look for funding and long-term sustainability options. Next slide, please. One of the projects that we are embarking on in 2021 as a continuation to support the adoption of several economies into the hub are ePhyto adoption workshops. The IAG will be hosting workshops with regional plant protection organizations and national NPPOs, as well as industry, to engage contracting parties in the adoption of the solution. We want to encourage the conversation and the discussions to start earlier as to not only the benefits of joining the hub or connecting economies to the hub, but how do you do that? And once that economies are connected to the hub, what are the next steps for industry to become involved? We certainly want to bring clarity for industry on how they can be engaging partners in pushing for this adoption and ultimately using this tool to facilitate trade. Our first workshop is scheduled for April 12th. We will be working with the Bahamas, followed by the Dominican Republic and Korea, though we do have a list of over 12 different economies that are in different stages, as Rose mentioned earlier, different stages of adoption of the ePhyto. But ultimately, as you saw on the map, our goal is to ensure that as many economies as possible are enrolled and fully engaged with the ePhyto hub, so that actual trade flows can be mapped out, can be tested, and can start to facilitate trade more easily. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions at the end of today's presentation.
Thank you so much, Alejandra. That was is really, really important for us to hear all the work that the IAG has already been doing, but also that there is an interest from the IPPC to carry on maintaining and developing a program at long term to maintain the electronic phytosanitary certificate. So thank you so much for that.